I made $10 million at 24. The moment it happened, you'd think there'd be some big celebration, some big surprise, but the truth is, I didn't even realize when it happened. And when I did realize it happened, the months after that were surprisingly more depressing than most people would think. So in today's video, I want to dive into what actually happens when you hit these milestones and what I've learned about money, about happiness, about life. Of course, I'm still young. I'm 25 now, so I've got hopefully much more life yet to experience. But if you want to know how it feels to be in this position and the surprising reality of being in this position, I think you might find this video interesting. I think from a young age, I've always been interested in money, and especially as I started to, hit my teens, I was experimenting with a bunch of stuff. I was doing drop shipping, I was doing playlisting for, artists on Spotify, I was doing all sorts of stuff. And I was always curious and keen to learn about new technology. I'd actually found Bitcoin in 2013, 2014. I was actually considering mining it at the time. I guess I was like a bit of a nerd, really, when I was like 13. Maybe I still am, but playing Minecraft all the time. I had Minecraft servers back in the day when I was like 12, 13 years old. And, and I was always on the internet, always doing stuff. I was making videos on another YouTube channel since I was 12. That was really my life, just like little side hustles, little hobbies, and that was all throughout my teenage years. The moment that I found the industry where I ended up making a lot of money was in 2019 when I found crypto, and it was during the bear market, and I had been reading about it in 2017 during that cycle, which was really hot. And in 2018, crypto really started to cool off. It reached a point in 2019 where I decided to finally take the plunge and buy some Bitcoin and Ethereum. And little did I know at the time that was going to lead to, a career in the industry, a big social presence in the industry, and big companies in the industry. So I just started out buying Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then by the next year, DeFi summer came around. So in the middle of 2020, you could start to do things with your assets. And by this time, Bitcoin and Ethereum had started to climb up a lot. They had a big correction in March, but rebounding out of that, they started to perform really well. And I got crazy into the world of DeFi. So staking my Ethereum, borrowing, lending, you had like Maker, Aave, Curve, and all these like DeFi primitives now starting to launch, and you could actually do stuff with your money finally in crypto. And I turned my initial investment, which I believe was around $10,000, into $50,000 at this point. And from mid-2020 until the end of that year, I saw my investment go from $50,000 to $150,000. And then what happened in 2021 was insane. I think you probably all know by now, crypto went absolutely insane in 2021. And I turned that 150 into, at one point, what was $1 million. For a while throughout the journey, $1 million was my goal. Like, it was my absolute dream. Like, I want to become a millionaire. I think, everyone in business, they want to become a millionaire. So that was my big driving goal. And funnily enough, when I hit $1 million, I didn't even realize I'd hit $1 million because I was very liquid, right? I was in all of these staking pools and I had all of these altcoins, and it just wasn't all centralized. And frankly, I wasn't very good at tracking it at the time. So I remember it wasn't until a couple of months later that I decided to sit down and do the math that I realized I was actually worth over $1 million. It's funny, when you first hit $1 million, you think, it's a big celebration, it's a big milestone, but I was instantly focused on the next goal. And for me, that was like 3 million, because at that point I had moved from Australia to Dubai. And I think once you move to Dubai, you start to realize, or at least think, because everyone else is apparently doing so much better than you, and everyone's driving these insane cars, and you're in this crazy environment, your expectations just increase. So instantly when I was in Dubai, I'm like, $1 million's not enough, I've got to make 3-4 million. So my next goal was a few million. Luckily, I was riding a crazy wave at the time, and from the time I hit $1 million to halfway through the next year, I had turned that million into, I think, 5 million. Now at this point, logically you'd think, okay, I could chill out a bit, live a bit more of a chill life. Thing is, my lifestyle creep had started to grow exponentially at that point. And since then, it's continued to grow exponentially. A mixture of being in Dubai, having higher rents, a mixture of lifestyle, a mixture of travel, and company expenses scaling the company aggressively meant that, my overheads had now gone from like 10 to 50K a month. So now I'm like, okay, I got to make even more. And I thought to myself, what, if I made 10 million? So I went from just wanting 1 million. Well, actually, at one point, I just wanted 100K. Then I wanted 1 million. Then I wanted 5 million. Then I was like, okay, if I just make 10 million, then I'm going to chill out. And I actually thought at the time, if I made 10 million, I would retire. Or my definition of retire is not, actually quitting. My definition was I would take more of a step back. I'd focus on more of the things I wanted to do, more of the business stuff I wanted to do, and not, be so stressed about trading, which I was at the time. Funnily enough, a similar story happened to me when I hit 10 million, as when I hit 1 million. I didn't even realize for probably weeks later that I'd actually hit 10 mil. I remember there was this crazy period where everything was absolutely flying in the market, and I had a bunch of exposure to altcoins and a bunch of leverage trades, and I had a Pepe position, which would run up from 100K to $1 million. I had an Ondo position, which I made $1.2 million in off a 20K investment, which was crazy. I had other coins like Mantra and a few others go from like 50K positions to 700K positions. So really everything just collided at once. And I had a really, really good period in the market. But once again, there was no life-changing moment, no celebration, no like penny drop or nothing when I hit 10 million. In fact, I didn't even know until weeks later. But subconsciously, I found in the weeks after hitting that milestone or realizing I hit that milestone, things started to get a little weird for me mentally, because I think 10 mil is like that goal for a lot of people, right? It's that logical goal. It's a big round number. After that, the goals become a little bit more arbitrary. I think we can all agree like 10 million is enough to live off. It's enough to retire off for most people. For me, it's probably not because of my fucking insane burn, but I think for most people, it's enough. And after 10 million, what's the next goal? Is it 100 mil? That's the next round number. Is it 20 mil? It's not really a huge milestone. Is it 50? So things become a little weird because I feel like for that entire journey from 100K to a million to 5 million, I always had a North Star, and that was like the next big round number. But what happens is after 10 million, there's no big round number now. Now it's more up to intrinsically what you really want and what your goals are and what you strive to be. Because once you hit 10 million, you don't need to strive to be anything. You can retire, you can live a chill life, or you can keep going. And that's where you have to make a decision with yourself and really reflect on what you want out of life. And I hadn't made this decision yet. So I didn't know what was happening to me, but I felt for a matter of months, to be honest, this feeling of, I guess, depression. Not depression in the sense that I couldn't get out of bed. Depression in the sense that I had unfulfillment. I didn't feel like the money was driving me, and I also didn't feel like the work was driving me either. It was this really weird period where none of it was really aligned. And I was in Dubai and without family. I'm still without family, but I cope with it a bit better now. And I just didn't feel like I had the support network or really the people to enjoy the success with. And at the time as well, the market had started to significantly slow down. I'd actually round-tripped I went well beyond 10 million. I round-tripped millions of dollars, like probably $5 million of potential gains. I'm going to probably do another video on this because that is a story in itself with its own learnings. But long story short, I'd round-trip, millions. So I was going into a period where I was kind of pissed off. I'd hit this milestone. I felt this unfulfillment, and I'd also gone way higher than that. And I'd round-tripped over $5 million. And I was constantly anchoring my self-worth to this number, like my all-time high number to what I had. It's kind of a weird psychological fuck up because everyone else is thinking like, you're a huge success, and in your head, you're like, I'm a huge failure. And it doesn't actually make sense when you try and rationalize it, but you're just comparing yourself to that other version of yourself or your heights. You're not comparing yourself to the reality of things, because the reality is at the time, and me now, like I'm extremely blessed, extremely blessed to be in this position. Like insane, like just insanely blessed at 25. But I actually struggle to come to terms with it sometimes because it feels almost wrong. It almost feels like imposter syndrome. Like, look, I do work really hard and I feel like in some ways I've earned it, but in other ways, like there is a lot of luck involved, and you can be really smart and really hardworking and not achieve the success I've achieved. And I'm not an idiot. I'm aware of the fact, I was born into a great family in Australia, always had a great support network, went to private school, always had like really good people around me, and I'm really thankful for my family and friends, although it's been hard being away from them. I feel like I was dealt a really lucky hand. Now, obviously, it's up to you to maximize your hand. And if you've been dealt a bad hand, it's up to you to change that fortune. But without being dealt a lucky hand, I don't know if I could have reached these heights already. And you know how wealth compounds, so potentially reach more heights in the future. So I'm extremely fortunate for that. Going through this process of not really understanding how I felt, I kind of came to a realization. And that realization was that my big driver wasn't the money itself. Because for a long time, I would quantify my self-worth or quantify my success with money. And it actually makes sense, right? Because in business, if you're an entrepreneur, in a way, money is the scoreboard. Money is the way that you quantify your success. Now, of course, there are other ways to quantify your success, like impact on people and customer reviews. And you can look at, internal metrics, so churn rate and the growth of your product, or, how many users you have. So there are all these things, but at the end of the day, the goal of most businesses is to be profitable, and to have an impact on the world, you need to be profitable. Like even all the things that I want to do in the future, they require money, and some of these are big things that help people and they require money. So I also think sometimes it's a bit naive when people are like, you're so selfish, you're just trying to make all this money and you're not trying to help the world. It's like, well, we live in a society where money is influence, money is power, or at least it can help you buy that or get into those rooms or get into those circles where you can actually have influence on things that you believe about. So I think that's a bit of a flawed argument, but nonetheless, money is a scoreboard. And in business, it's one of the ways that you can quantify that you have impact, or quantify that what you're doing is right, or quantify what you're doing is on the right path. I realized that I wasn't really, because there was a kind of a period where I was like questioning myself, like, are you just materialistic? And there's like a bit of self, like you beat yourself up a little bit, like, why aren't I happy? I'm at 10 mil, I should be really happy right now. So am I materialistic? Like, do I have a problem? Why isn't this making me happy? Like, you start thinking that, like, why do I feel like this when I should feel really happy? Or, I should be happy with myself because everyone else is telling me how great I'm doing. And what I realized is that it wasn't actually the money that drove me. The money was the scoreboard, but what drove me was building and continuing to level up, and that feeling of getting better and better and better, not the money itself. And the money was the way to measure that. I actually think about the times in business when I've had the most fun, and most of the times when I was chasing dopamine loops, not in the monetary sense, like, oh, I made 100K this month, but more in the sense of like metrics or underlying data that was impactful to my business. Like, for example, when I was growing my X really big, I was obsessed with gaining followers. Now, of course, gaining followers was helping me make money. It was expanding my network. It was giving me more views. It was landing me more sponsorships. It was doing a lot for my financial health. But I was just obsessed with getting more followers. I remember on X or Twitter at the time, trying to get from 10K to 20K followers, then targeting 50K, then 100K. And, eyeing other accounts that I was like competitive with and trying to get more engagement than them, and then trying to get more followers than them. And I think reflecting on that has made me realize that something that drives me a lot is the feeling of winning and the feeling of competition. And not everyone's like this. Like, not everyone's super competitive, but I just like beating people and beating myself and beating goals. If I can identify a target and then beat them, or identify a metric and then beat it, I'm very competitive. I get a lot of joy out of that. And I actually realized I get more joy out of that than the money. So over the past few months, I've tried to reframe my thinking, and this has been happening throughout the whole year, but especially in the last few months, from instead of chasing those numbers, I'm aware of the numbers, but instead of chasing more numbers and bigger numbers, I'm more so chasing the feeling of leveling up and chasing the feeling of getting better and chasing the feeling of doing my best every day. So when my head hits the pillow every single night, I look back on the day and I think, Miles, you did your absolute fucking best today. Like, you smashed everything you could do. Now, not every day I'm doing my to-do list, and some days go off track, and some days, like yesterday, I needed a reset day where I just chilled with some friends, played paddle, did some e-foiling in the beach, like just chilled a little bit. But if 90% of days my head hits the pillow and I can say that was a good day and you made yourself proud, that's now what I'm proud of. And I am chasing the feeling of now making my future self proud, not through going for these monetary targets and these arbitrary numbers in the end, but through doing my best every single day and putting my full effort into what I'm doing every single day. Money's great, but I think what it's best for is to act as a scoreboard to underline what really matters, and that is progress. I think what really matters is that you do your best. And it's not about arbitrary numbers. It's not about necessarily being better than others. It's about being better than yourself. And if you can use those extrinsic motivators, like beating someone or, gaining more followers or playing those dopamine flywheel games, like, do it. I mean, today's modern society is really hard. There's so much distraction. There's social media, and you're looking at all this stuff and you're trying to take in all this information. You're constantly being advertised to, like, it's really hard. So you've got to use your own psychology, like our own monkey brains, right? You've got to rewire them in order to achieve what you want to achieve. So you can play your own game. Like, even something like a Whoop, which I'm wearing on my arm right now, like, this is a good game because I want to beat my sleep score every night. And I'm really competitive. Like, I want to beat myself every single night. But that's a good thing to be competitive with and track on the app and have a streak and compare with your friends because it's helping your sleep. So just like you do that, do the same thing for your business. Get a friend, like, be accountability buddies, make each other accountable. How much did you get of your to-do list done today? I got 7 out of 10. I got 9 out of 10. Like, play those games. If you're in the social media game, play the follower game. I'm at 5K followers, I'm at 10K followers. I just hit my first viral reel. I just hit my first viral video. I just hit my first viral thread. Like, play that game. I think these games that you can play to help yourself level up are the best ones to focus on, not the money itself. The money's going to come as an output from your inputs. And if you gamify your inputs, you'll end up creating massive outputs, which is what happened with me. And I feel like the times where I've focused too much on the outputs and too much on the money, I've let myself down on the input side and I've ended up making a lot less. And that's one of the reasons why, there was a big period where I started stagnating, and it's only recently where I feel like I've started to grow again. Not just in a financial sense, but in a personal sense and in terms of, my own happiness and my own self-worth. Look, the reality is this is a journey. This is never ending. There are going to be really tough periods where I deal with external stuff, and there are going to be tough periods in the business, and there are going to be great periods in the business, and this stuff's going to evolve. And this is what I want to document on the channel. I started this channel recently to give you a bit more insight into my life and what I'm doing, and so I can share these stories because I've experienced so much at a young age, but I want to give you guys a window into that as well, because even if I can just help a few people from this video, it's worth it. I mean, I've had some friends message me personally, and most people don't say anything, but occasionally I've had friends message me and be like, that video really inspired me. Like, that has changed things for me. Seeing this video has inspired me to do X, Y, and Z. And if I know that some people are thinking like that, I think chances are there's a bunch more thinking like that. And that's a big motivator for me behind this channel. I think that also ties into what I was saying before about impact in general. You know, money is a scoreboard, but impact is another way to score things. So if I can make a positive impact on people's lives, that makes the work more fulfilling. And then you're not as tied to chasing dollar amounts because there's more of like an intrinsic motivator there, you know, to help people. But anyway, maybe I'm just rambling now, but let me know if you got any value from this video. Hopefully I can do more videos like this, diving into these topics. Probably the next one I'll do is how I lost 5 million and what happened, because that was fucking crazy. Honestly, yeah, there were some bad financial decisions. There's a few of them I want to share with you so you guys don't do the same things as me, but hopefully you find it entertaining at least. Cool. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.